Pop in, say hi. If you've never come into one of my lives before, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. And here on Sunday night, we put a little bit of a crew together. We've been together for, I would have to say, for almost 10 years. I know I've been on YouTube for 10 years. And this little crew that we've put together have been such a support. And this crew knows also I live behind a fire station. Give me 1 second. I'm sending some good cheer. I hope they got to their destination, which is across the street. And then they knock on the door and everything is okay. Oh my goodness. Even in this building where I live in, it has over 200 suites in this building. And quite often, I would say every second day, the fire engines and paramedics are here for something. It's a strange fire alarm today. I've never heard them use that one before. I don't know if it means a specific thing. But yeah, so it might be a little bit of distraction for me in that moment because people tend to pool around there because people come from up north with their family. It's what do you call those convalescent homes? When they have to come from the communities up north in Manitoba, and you have to fly in. And it doesn't make any sense to keep flying in for post-op checkups and stuff like this. So they have this amazing building here, and it's set up. They've got a nurse's station and everything there. And I think these are just little suites so that the families can kind of stay together while the patient goes for doctor's appointments and post-op checkups and stuff like that. And then they take a cab and they get driven to the airport and they go home. I've seen some people there stay for almost a month quite often. So those are the serious. So it makes sense that I would see the fire trucks and the ambulances going on. Very strange fire alarm today. I right. I hope that's not another one that I have to learn to recognize. The main one, the one I usually hear every day. It still catches me by surprise. It's a new fire alarm that I haven't heard ever. And it's so high pitched and it's so loud it reverberates like a Bose speakers. Oh my goodness. And so it catches me by surprise. And I'm somebody who's I'm pretty spooked. If you catch me by surprise, I'm pretty spooked. You don't want to be around me like anywhere's reachable if I'm spooked because I right? I go right into action. Let's just say that. Hello, Owen. Hello, Andrew. Yeah, so it's just automatic instinct that, you want to make sure that you take out whatever is trying to take you out in the moment. And I don't even think it's just automatic instinct. My second youngest sister, Alice, she would go blank like my mother did. She would go absolutely blank and she'd just go for the kill. Like she'd jump on you could only tease her to a point. She was so independent and so, self-directed in her life, right? She was very protective of herself, very assured in herself. That's a good way of putting it. And she could only take so much. She didn't have much tolerance, I would have to say. And she'd only take so much, and then she'd just kind of go blank and go for the kill. She ended up on my back like a squirrel monkey so many times, and she's like 6 years younger than me. I think I had a couple of experiences with her as a teenager, and I never messed with her. I never messed with my younger sister, Alice. You guys have met her. She pops by here on occasion, has interrupted our live show. Today, oh my goodness, I was having a really nice day. For the most part, I wasn't even listening to anything. I just had everything off, and I was just doing little projects around the house and being with myself today a little bit because I was feeling a lot better today. Today was the first day that I didn't cry. I didn't cry at all. So that was, and I lost thought about her. When I was going about my projects, I was finally able just to get back to myself and just be in contemplation today and in the projects that I have been putting off, like my kitchen cupboards. Oh my goodness. I just love Sani foam. Actually, I'm not giving Santa foam the credit. I'm giving maybe it is, no, it's Lysol foaming spray. But Mr. Bubbles, any of those bathroom sprays, they're the most amazing sprays. We have these tiles on the floor, and sometimes, especially with my desk chair and stuff, I get these little circles and stuff that you really have to scrub out because it's like grease and stuff. And you just spray that on, and it just wipes what right off. And your bathtub, right? You just spray it and go off and do a chore for half an hour and just come back and pretty much just rinse it off because it just melts it right off, just like oven cleaner. I know it's got chemicals, again, just like that when we switch from metric to from the imperial system to the metric system in the late 70s, and that messed me up. And even to this moment, I am stuck right in the middle. I do a little bit of metric, and I do a little bit of imperial measurement in my cooking, especially. I use imperial measurement in when I'm listing things to sell. When I do my measurements and stuff, I always use inches, right? Or foot, but I don't normally sell the big stuff because I don't have enough room here for storage. But if I came across something and I knew it wouldn't stick around for very long, I wouldn't have uh, I wouldn't have any problem with that. I've been doing really well with artwork lately, and if I had a little pool of cash, I would hit every thrift store in the city, and because there's lots of nice pieces online and very inexpensive because people don't know art, they don't know what they have, they don't know about framing and matting and paper and different paints. They don't know about the artist except get the name right, and galleries, not understanding galleries, and I've been scoring pretty good. I have a few pieces up right now, and I've got lots of watchers on them, no biters. Some couple of people have called, said they come and pick it up, but they never came and picked it up. But that's the reseller life, right? I just don't want it to interfere with when I need to go shopping, or I want to go for a walk, or I have other things planned, that I'm not saying putting my life to the side just so that I can sit there and wait for somebody to come by. Even today, I expected a couple of people to come by. Let me show you one thing that I listed. People really like. I don't know where. Oh, I don't know where I put it. Isn't that isn't that odd? Yeah, they were some Nordic winter gloves. Isn't that odd? Uh, I didn't leave the apartment today, so it's not like they went anywheres. They're floating around somewheres. But yeah, I had a couple of people. It was just that they were really neat gloves. I actually have a hat. It's called a pan hat. I don't know if anybody's heard about pan hats, but I got something called pan hat. It's like a little knitted beanie with a tassel on the top, and it's like Tibetans or East Indians wear them or something. So I got to do a little bit of research before I list that. But yeah, I enjoy reselling, but like I said, it's not enough unless I'm out there actually getting stock, right? I'm just selling off what I have. Grateful I had a lot of it, right? And grateful to be able to do some research because I bought things because I liked them and not because I thought that they were worth a fortune. And gratefully, I'm finding that some of these things are going for pretty decent money. I added this little Chinese or Tibetan teapot, and it was a little glass one, and it's Tibetan silver, right? It's not real silver because they mix it with they melt brass and aluminum in with the silver, so they weaken the silver content. But it's a very elaborate. It was really pretty, and I'm sending it off to Saskatchewan for $60, right? And then he asked me if I would do some Christmas shopping for his wife, that he would pay me $100, and I says, "Oh, okay." So yeah, I have his box right here. I'll be shipping that off, and then yeah, he's going to pay me $100, and I'm just gonna go. And he lives out in the country. I'm assuming he's elderly through our conversations and stuff. But yeah, $100 is $100, isn't it? So we're getting by. We're moving forward all the time, right? We need. Oh my goodness, moving forward all the time. I'm trying, you guys. I'm looking at my glasses right now. I says, "Oh my goodness, Cindy, you need a new pair of glasses. You really destroyed those glasses. I took the reflective coating off the glasses, and now I've got this, right? These, what do you call these, fly eyes going on, and there's nothing I can do about it except I think maybe do my live shows during the day. I haven't tried. I think that would help out quite a bit. I might try this week or something during my What's My Good Cheer, and then Sunday nights I would still do it Sunday nights, right? So how's your guys' week's been going, you guys? I'm feeling so much better right now, so much better. And I am getting projects. My house feels fresh and clean, right? I still haven't washed my bedding, so I'll do that in the next couple of days. But oh, yeah, I got lots done. I cleaned my stove and tore it all apart and took out the SOS pads and scrubbed everything nice and shiny. And then I just sanifoamed all my kitchen cupboards and just let all the grime just drip to the floor, right? And then I even sprayed the floor tile in front of my sink and everything, and it just looked beautifully everything. And I just actually used my dish scrubby on the kitchen cupboards, right? Because you can't really use an SOS pad or anything like that. But I thought, oh, maybe my kitchen scrubby would work. Oh, and I just took my kitchen scrubby. It took me 15 minutes. It was a chore that I've been dreading for about 2 months. So the kitchen is officially done. It's clean, and as long as I keep it maintained, it'll stay spotless, right? And I've also taken it down, meaning I've thinned out things that I can move and I can donate or I can give it away, right? So it's looking a lot better. My yellow bedroom set that I had been putting together, if you could see my big coat rack is missing. I sold that. I sold the big beautiful picture that I had. I did really good on them too, like really, really good. I think like I 5 times, 6 times the money that I invested in these things. And again, I bought them because I liked them, but I wasn't attached. Oh, I guess I was. I was attached to the bedroom set, but the coat rack, right? It would have only been a piece of decor and just big and heavy and awkward, and I didn't love it, but it was part of the decor. But I moved that along, and once I moved that along, it was no problem just everything else moving everything else along. So I'm feeling good at where I'm at right now in thinning out my house. Thank you, Andrew. Actually, it was Andrew that gave me that idea, right? I got too much stuff. I do. And it's not like big pieces of furniture or anything. It's all these little doodads and crystals and rocks and my rock collection. I am not ready to move that along. I suspect if I ever went in an RV or something, I think I would probably put it in a Rubbermaid container because part of what I do, or maybe I could put it into, I don't know what I'll do with it because, rock hounding is in me. And if I hit the road, you guys know I'm going down to Arkansas and I'm going down to Arizona and I'm going to be, oh goodness, I'll be digging for all kinds of amazing crystals and rocks. And I've got books and I've been doing studying and stuff. I know where all the mines are and all the good places. Not to camping though. I haven't checked out the camping in the states because I've been doing those one big trips every year, but I want to go to Ontario on those trips. And as much as I would love to go to those or North Carolina or New York. New York has the Herkimer diamonds. Oh my goodness. And that was the plan for last year was I was going to go digging for Herkimer diamonds. It was on my itinerary, but I didn't realize what kind of toll it was going to take on me from just going from one campground to the next campground every single. I didn't even get to enjoy my parks the way that I wanted to, except for my very last day where I just didn't have any steam except to sit in my camp chair and stare out at the lake. But I learned my lesson this year, and I had a magnificent time. I had the best time. I had the best time. And next year will be even better. My sister asked me for my Christmas list. And, it's the pop up tent. So she said, send me a link. So I did a little bit of research on pop up tents to see if there were some good ones that I liked. I don't need anything super huge or anything, right? But, um, yeah, I gave her my list, so I'm getting a tent for Christmas, and that's good. That takes a worry off me. That makes it now that I can worry about getting my desktop replaced and getting the reflective coating. I wonder if I could just go in and take the glasses in and say, can you put a reflective coating on them for me? Or if I should just, I wasn't happy with these glasses anyway. They were nice frames, but they were not the frames that somebody who had progressive bifocals should be wearing, because they're supposed to be nose guards to keep them in the right prescription spot. And yeah, I might as well have just had regular progressives on those. I learned my lesson, right? We learn from our mistakes. Uh, I like a good cleaning. My refrigerator, freezer are on the to-do list. You guys like lists too? It's how I get things done. I always have a list in here, and they're the essentials for the day. Do. This is what I've got to do. If I can get these three things done, and my kitchen cupboards, I put it on the list, right? But I put it on the list truthfully, with not a lot of faith that it was going to get done, right? Because I'm so used to the kitchen cupboards being put off for another day, that was a good thing to get onto my list. And if it didn't happen, oh well, you've been putting it off. Just put it off for another day, right? So that's on me. But yeah, that's usually what I do, is I make a mental note of three things that I need to get done. But I also have a list of things that I want to get done for the week. And then I have things that I want to get done for the year. And then I have the big ones, the ones for the end game, where Cindy's, driving down the highway in her beautiful little RV, visiting provincial parks and state parks. And you guys, have any of you guys ever heard about those Scottish, oh, what did they call them? I was just watching a program. I'm gonna just save that. I was watching a program of a little East Indian girl who had a parasitic twin attached to her. She had lots of legs and lots of arms, and her village worshipped her, and she became a tourist attraction, and they were making money on her. And she was only 2 years old, right? And her parents, you could tell her parents loved her lots and were getting fed up, because people would, stick their heads in their home and in their yards. And, every time they went anywhere, they were followed, and people were preying on her and stuff. But, for even for themselves, there would be offerings and that. So sometimes they wouldn't have a choice. They couldn't put grocery on the table, right? And the village kind of expected that they were just going to let this little girl grow up to have all these arms and all these legs. And some big hospital in one of the big cities came in and taught the parents to let her have the operation. So I was watching her have the operation, and she was just in recovery. But then now I had to go and do my live show. Okay, I just wanted to see this first. Scottish. Oh my God. I always wanted to go to Scotland, and I've been watching these, so it's probably going to. Here it is. I knew it would have been suggested to me. When you go in and you watch things on YouTube, more than likely you're going to get a little bit more of whatever you watched on YouTube. And if you watched a lot of something on YouTube, like you come in and hang out with me, right? Then you're always going to get suggested my content. I much appreciate it that you guys, even if you guys just come in and hang out with me for 5 minutes, I appreciate it lots. Yeah, so a bothy. Have you ever heard of a Scottish bothy, you guys? I've been looking at these adventures, and they're little urban explorers, but again, they're doing little castles and ruins, and they go camping, and they go for these trails, down these trails, and they stay in these old bothies. And these old bothies are actually, when the Scottish got kicked off their land and stuff, that these bothies kind of stayed there. So now the government and stuff kind of upkeeps them, and they put areas where anywheres from 4 to 8 people can actually stop there on a hike and spend the night. And they usually have a nice little wood stove. They're so beautiful. and the buildings are all over 100 years old. Some of them are in the most magnificent, majestic landscapes that you could ever possibly think of. Oh my goodness, the countryside of Scotland is absolutely just stunning. Yeah, I would love to see Scotland. I would love to see Croatia too. I heard Croatia is absolutely beautiful. And then there are places in the world that are really beautiful, but only certain times of the year, like Japan, and when they have the cherry blossoms and stuff, right? Here in Manitoba, right? When spring comes and the trees hit the leaves, you can't even see the city. If you're in a jet plane up in the sky going to the airport, you could fly right over the city, and you wouldn't even see the city because we have so many trees. It's the first thing people notice when they come to Winnipeg. And I'm not even sure that Winnipeg promotes it in any way. I know certainly when I moved here to Winnipeg when I was 18 years old, and it was one of the first things that I noticed was how many trees this city had. Let me have a sip of my tea. I think I made tea. Yeah, made tea. I've been trying lately to alternate between tea and coffee. I think I've been drinking too much coffee, or my coffees have been too strong because of the way that I make my coffees, that they're too strong, and I'm getting acidic, right? From too much. So I'm just trying to make little adjustments and where I can. I made the most amazing cookies. I'm saying I'm trying to make the best little adjustments where I can. But when I said that, it triggered me and it said, "No, you didn't, Cindy. Remember those peanut butter cranberry cookies you made yesterday?" I made the best cookies I have ever made in my entire life. I made peanut butter cookies, but I had these cranberries. They went on sale after Thanksgiving, and I use them quite often in Bisquick, or I'll make a little sauce for my pork roast or something. But I had these cranberries left over, and I don't know, I was in a mood, and I said, "Oh, let's throw these cranberries in my peanut butter cookie mix," right? And I made my little balls and I pushed them down. And I took my little fork and put my fork design on them, sprinkle a little sugar on top, put them in the oven. They puffed up nice, so beautifully. I hit that oven. I was doing little chores and stuff. I hit that oven at the perfect time, right? That Gordon Ramsay couldn't have found fault in how those cookies looked. But it's not about how they looked, it's about how they tasted. And wow, I had never made a better cookie. And I've made a lot of cookies in my lifetime, but I've never made a better cookie than that. And the color of the cranberries poking out of the peanut butter cookie was so pretty. And I thought, well, how can incorporate green, right? What can you put on there that's green so it would really look Christmassy, and it would be a Christmas cookie, right? Or Thanksgiving cookie. And then I thought, I don't know if you guys have this in the States. Do you guys have Aero bars in the States? It's the green chocolate with the uh, bubbly green holes. Yeah, that's a hard way for me to describe it. But it's a chocolate bar, but it's a mint chocolate bar, and the chocolate bar is actually green, and it's one of the best chocolate bars ever. Very popular here in Canada. In fact, it's one of my favorite chocolate bars. But yeah, and I thought, oh my goodness, that's all I'll do is I'll just melt. I'll just melt uh, an Aero chocolate bar, and you just put it in a sandwich bag, and you take the little tip off, and then just do a little swishy over top of it. And I went, oh my goodness, that is the most amazing Christmas cookie ever. And then I was thinking, how could I make the cookie itself even better? Because I just kind of needed a cookie. I get in those moods, and I'm just like, oh, I need to make cookies. And so you just stick into the cupboards and you just be creative with whatever ingredients that you have. But then afterwards, I was thinking, well, how could I have made this cookie even better than I did? And the only thing else that I could think of was walnuts. I thought, oh, this might be good with the cranberries and the walnuts. Yeah, it was an amazing cookie. I'm bragging about my bragging about my cookies, but yeah, nothing to brag about it because it gave me a tummy ache because I ate those cookies before I went to bed, right? But I was happy when I got up in the morning and I had left a tray of cookies with a towel over it. It's, oh, I didn't eat all the cookies. Yeah. Carbohydrates in my family, we we were brought up, carbohydrates is a cheap food. It doesn't really offer you much, if anything. And we grew up on it, whether it was rice or macaroni. Uh, oh my goodness, carbs. There were some good carbs. I think like pork and beans is a good carb. Lots of fiber in beans, and but yeah, we ate badly in my family. We ate kind of messed up too because alternately, I was always on a diet. I was always put on a diet when I was a kid and as a teenager. And I'd be taken right off the diet if dad had a bad poker day or if they needed that money because the car broke down or something. So it was kind of like a roller coaster, right? To me, it just seemed like punishment all the time. But it didn't really do any good. I think it probably did even more damage because it became a psychological thing for me and maybe even a rebellion thing for me, when it came to that pressure. And but I get it though, because people would stare at my parents and stuff and they'd see all their beautiful daughters all dressed up walking in line, right? My parents, and I would think that, people would judge my parents. At least that was what was put across to me, right? Was in that judgment that's why I was always, you know, they could put it off as concern because it did run in the family, obesity, but yeah, it did mess me up. But it wasn't just with what was going on at home. It was going out on in the general public. And in the 60s and 70s, there was no mercy. There was no mercy. They were just coming out of World War II, and everybody was just looking to take out their frustrations. And a lot of times, the kids my age were the kids that were born from the soldiers coming home too. Where so there would have been traumatic and epigenetically, you know, traits and cultures. These traditions that just passed down from one generation to the next. And it's hard. It's a hard cycle to beat. That's, you look at these documentaries. Quite often I watch this, what's it called, white white belly, oh, something white belly, I can't remember. But he does documentaries, but he directly works with the vulnerable. But you can see it's the kids and the parents, and I'm not too often the grandparents, but you hear the stories about what the grandparents did to the kids. So it kind of gives you that idea. Yeah, right? You just get born into it and then you live it and experience it, and you don't think that there's anything better in life. You think that you're right, because then you look at your life and you watch TV and you see uh, millionaire housewives, and you see all these rich movie stars and stuff, and you think, oh my goodness, I'm useless, I'm a nothing, I'm a zero, I'm a loser, right? And you beat yourself up, and when you get to that negative state, right? Lots of times you can't dig yourself out of it. You can't pull yourself out of it because you've just left the door open for just more terrible stuff to come in. It was one of the really good lessons that I learned, even when it gets difficult. Now I just look at it when I'm hit with those things, I just look at it like a challenge, right? And I can go back and think about it later. But in this moment, we're in a challenge. So let's just move through the problem, move through the catastrophe, move through what we didn't get right, and resolve the situation. And when it's all said and done, we can go back and kind of look at it as a lesson to say what could we have done better, and right, accept that you can't cry over spilt milk because it's already said and done. But otherwise, we've just become big panic mess in our life. I like to do things. I like to do things slowly. I don't always get to them because it's not my nature. People all my life have commented, slow down, Cindy. Where do you get your energy? And I would always joke, like I say it all the time. It's just like, God made me this way just so I could put up with your guys' stuff. And I go, ha 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 ha. Everybody has a good laugh, but in a way, I believe it to be true, right? Because, for those who lift others, for those that care for others, and as much as Owen and Andrew are caregivers, I consider myself a caregiver, right? And you guys should consider yourself caregivers, because you got to start with yourself, right? You care for yourself, and then while you're caring for yourself, sometimes you have an opportunity, like I do, and open up my platform, and we share that. We move it along, and that's the way it's supposed to work, right? We all have to be the example for others. I was kind of in that topic a little bit today, being the examples for others. A lot of people, I appreciate them so much because they hit on such big, important topics, and they do it in unique ways, and they do it sometimes in such intellectual ways that you can't even possibly think that anybody else could have that information except for them. And you have to appreciate that sometimes, you have to go through that work to be that expertise, and sometimes you have to be super courageous, because sometimes our ideas don't rub well with others, right? Sometimes if you're cute like me, right, you kind of tolerate, and oh, there goes Cindy. Oh well, maybe not this week, maybe we'll try her again next week, right? But not everybody else, gets that option. Quite often, people get shut down so hard, right? Like it was in the 60s and 70s, where just it was just like, you know like first day of hunting, and you just walk to school, and it was just like you have that big target on your forehead. Oh my goodness. I always walked to school by myself because it was a way for me to pump myself up and to cheerlead myself and get myself ready for whatever was coming my way, right? And I enjoyed walking to school on my own. I was always picking up the slugs and picking up the worms that would come crawl up onto the sidewalks in the sun, right after the rain. Yeah. Okay, let me take this notification out so I can see what you're all yapping about. Uh, hello, William. Did you get that Avengers toy that you wanted? Oh, that tea feels good. Trying to take in a lot more fluids, but I can tell by the sound of my voice that I need to take even more fluids, right? But the only thing that was, there was no room in my stomach because it was full of those amazing peanut butter cranberry cookies. I'm going to make them this Christmas for everybody. They'll just go absolutely nuts. So I might even enter the recipe in a cookie contest. It was the perfect, those that little burst of cranberry juice when you bite into the cranberry, and it's the cranberries were perfectly cooked, and it was just that little bit of sweet tartness, and then the peanut butter cookie, and the combination was almost like peanut butter and jam the way they work. But when you bite into the cranberry, you get a little burst of juice, and it was just like, oh my goodness, these are the most magnificent. I really love fresh cranberries when they go on sale, and they usually just go on sale at what, Christmas, Thanksgiving, and Easter. And then they have the little bags of fresh cranberries, and then they go on discount after the holidays. And then that's why when I buy them, and I usually will buy like 6 bags of them when they go for like 99 cents, and I throw them in my freezer. And they're amazing because, if you have a craving for a carb, right? Carbs are terrible, terrible, you guys. We can live without carbohydrates, I do believe, right? I know there'll be minuscule bits, in the roots and stuff like that, but good, healthy carbs, and we're just eating the carbs to fill ourselves up, right? As a cheap way to fill ourselves up. So I'm trying to introduce, what I'm saying is I'm trying to introduce a little bit better eating around, right? And it's not perfect, but it's pretty good. It was pretty good. I'm just thinking what I had for dinner tonight was kind of strange. But I just worked with what was going on with the cupboards, and I was in my projects, and I was feeling pretty good at the end of it. Even I even got my little teapot that I'm sending away to Saskatchewan, all boxed up, and the postal's on it. It's all ready to go to the post office and be dropped off tomorrow. So, and I probably will go for a walk sometime tomorrow unless somebody makes arrangements with me. See, but that's the thing, right? I don't want to postpone my life. I don't want to put my life off on hold to wait for people to get here to come and pay me for things that they buy. I would like to set a certain time where I just don't make any arrangements at all, but I'm not at that point right now, right? But there'll come a time, right? I will do what I ever have to do. I'm not looking to get rich, right? I'm looking to keep a roof over my head, and it keeps me busy in that, and it's challenging. And you guys know how I feel about the little challenges. Well, I didn't need big challenges, but little challenges are good. And this is my last year. I think I go on full pension in less than a year now. So I'll have an income coming in no matter what going forward. But that doesn't mean that I can't go off and work a few shifts a week, or right, to do what I was actually even thinking, me and my sister Alice, we should open up our own thrift store. We've got enough stock to get it started, even after everything that I got rid of. Did you see that? Oh, I got enough stock. I've got so much stuff, and I'm not attached, like lifetime attached, because I know my life is going to change. And as it changes, I'm not going to be able to drag all this stuff with me, right? I might store the few things that I absolutely love. I don't know. It's going to be really, really hard to part with my pictures. But maybe, like I said, maybe I could store them, or maybe I'll just feel good. Maybe I'll find a way to hang them up. I do love my bear stats, right? They're the two blue ones. Oh, but that green one up there. Yeah, I love that one too. Anything with trees and Mother Nature, I absolutely love. And now, I don't know if you noticed, but I put the other one because it was a fine print by a famous Manitoba watercolor, and it was from a pretty renowned gallery in the lakeside of Manitoba. So I put that one up for sale. I put because I wasn't attached. It was a forest. I loved it. It was forest, but contemporary art is probably not my forte of what I love, but if it's sellable, I'll sell it. I'll sell it. But it's not something that I collect for myself. I really love the deep nature, the realistic, something that I can lose myself in, like my forest one. I just love this one here. I'll take you. Maybe I was thinking I was going to set my desk up, and I was going to set up my webcam and give it another shot to see if it would do any better than it did last time. I don't even remember what was going on last time. Um, I have no idea. And but I thought maybe we'll give it another shot. Sometimes it's just trying again and a small adjustment. And then maybe I really love the 1080, the 720, just sitting here, talking head. That's fine. It works. It works fine. Okay. But I'd like to always be experimenting in what I bring to the table. And part of that is the technical part. So I thought, well, okay, we'll go the 1080, and I'll bring out my Sylvania, and we'll give it another shot. Melvin's here too. Oh my goodness. Oh, Melvin loves the carbs too. What's your favorite carb in the whole world? There's a lot of amazing carbohydrates. That's the thing about carbs, they are so yummy, right? Even some of the healthy carbs though are very full of calories, and they convert to sugar so they can promote diabetes. And like I said, though, they're cheap. Carbohydrates are fairly inexpensive, and in a pinch, that will get a family away, a family bad. you know so grateful. I'm so grateful for President Trump. Good thing Nancy's not here. Reason being, as he took the tariffs off the coffee and the beef. We weren't worried about the beef, but I was certainly worried about the price of coffee. It was hitting almost $40 for one of those tins of coffees. I couldn't believe it. Used to be able to get them on sale for like 14.99, and I went, "Oh my goodness." But then when I was walking by the meat department today, or yesterday, yeah, yesterday, I was walking by the meat department in the grocery store, and it said sale $8.99 about. I remember like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when they would have beef on sale for $2.99 for a pound for ground meat. And those sales are long gone. But maybe, right, with President Trump making the amendments to the tariffs for us, right? We're not going to have to worry about that high price. Because I had no problem. I says, well, when I can't afford to buy coffee anymore, we're just not going to do coffee anymore, right? It makes me acidic anyway, right? I like my coffee. I could sit here all day long, and just dig in deep into content, right? As long as I have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, just to keep me keep me focused in what I'm doing. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so I was watching this documentary tonight about this lady. But the thing is, this little girl who had the four legs and the four arms, right? But the village had a serious problem with her having the operation because they were making money off of her, right? Because she had become, they treated her like a little goddess, like the goddess lady with the lots of arms, and yeah, so yeah, she had the operation, and I just got to the point where she just got out of the operation, and the operation was successful, but it was a parasitic twin. So she had absorbed her twin, and it was a scary operation too, because they had to deal with the spine, because that's where the two were attached. They were attached at the bottom of their spines. But nothing, you guys, did any of you guys see, because it did happen a few months ago at least, did any of you guys see any of that guy who skied down Mount Everest? That he hiked to the summit without any oxygen. He didn't take any oxygen tanks or anything with him. Hiked all the way up to the summit of Mount Everest, put on his skis, and skied all the way down Mount Everest. I almost had a heart attack. I couldn't believe that anybody could be in their right mind and do something. Just watching, it was hard for me to watch. It was like watching a scary movie and you're putting your hands over your eyes, right? Because it's just so scary. But this guy skiing down Mount Everest, and it was incredible. Oh my goodness. But they use drones. So that's an amazing thing. So the whole uh, way that Mount Everest is hiked, and the dangers in Mount Everest, because the drones can get up there and find where people have fallen in the snow or are having issues and stuff. So they'll have a more precise idea of where these skiers have gotten themselves hung up. I think it will be a lot better. But not only that, last year it was in the news. It was really big news how Base Camp One, how disgustingly filthy it was, because everybody brought their food and their gear, and they never hiked anything out. And it was like the city dump, and they were pitching their tents and getting ready to climb the mountain. And people, like hundreds of people every year, climb Mount Everest, and it was like a pigsty. Well, when I was watching the documentary and he skied into campsite one at the base of Mount Everest, it was spotless, you guys. There was nothing on the ground. So all that headline news and all that hoopla of people, right? And that's the thing, people think it's mean to cause problems, because of course it caused problems. It was probably very, very embarrassing for the government and for tourism and for people who were thinking that they would love to climb Mount Everest, and just kind of turned off by the commercialism and the disgusting infrastructure of allowing something like that to happen at something that is pretty renowned. Everybody has heard of Mount Everest, and for people who do challenge themselves, I challenge myself, but I would never challenge myself like that. That's for sure. I'd never want to climb Mount Everest, and not like this guy too, skiing down Mount Everest. If you guys have not seen that, it's on YouTube, you guys. It's only a 25-minute video. Go find it. You just have to go into the search on your YouTube page and just punch in the words Everest skiing or Everest skier, and it'll pop up right away. And watch that documentary. It was uh, a little nauseating, right? Because it's like, when you watched up on the roller coaster and you're looking just about to go down that hill on the roller coaster, phew, and you see it coming and your just whole thing just drops. It's kind of like that. And he was on cliff edges, and but they've kind of mapped out his route, right? Then somehow they got one of those guides to go up there and kind of walk up in a route to kind of show the skier, but that didn't mean that he'd step in the wrong place and the whole side bank of snow would fall on his head, or he end up 5,000 feet below in a gazillion little pieces because, well, it's Mount Everest, right? Who would want to ski down Mount Everest? I can't imagine it. But people do, right? There are people who do that extreme excitement stuff. I keep it pretty simple. I think if you'd ask my family, they think what I do is extreme, but it isn't. It's just my passion to be with Mother Nature. I love camping. I love lakes. I love trails. I love the trees. I love the colors of the leaves and stuff. I do it, but I do it in small steps, right? Low income, or not low income, low impact uh, experiencing in the outdoors. But some of these people, they just do it to the extremes, like jumping out of the airplanes. Yeah, I don't think so. Getting on those big kites that they do, and you just kind of dangle on a rod, right? And they just pull you on a boat and you go up like 500 feet. Recently, a lady panicked so bad when she was like at 200 feet in the sky. She panicked so bad while she was up there, she untied herself and just let herself go. Can you imagine being that terrified that you would do something knowing that you didn't even have a chance, but it was a less scarier situation than just taking a look and being dragged. I mean, yeah, it was. Yeah. Some things you come across, but that's life too, right? And we can't just be entertained by stuff, but we don't need to be goried out by the tragedies too. That's one thing I like about YouTube. They're pretty strict on what they allow. I have to go in after my lives and stuff, and I have to clarify, and I have to check boxes to make sure, because they review, and you got to make sure of the content that you're putting out to the world. Like, I don't do like the my conversations and stuff. There's sometimes, right, being a little, what do you call that, couch philosopher kind of idea, that sometimes I feel that it should be in a different category, but I put it in entertainment because of the legalities. And then I also make sure that the boxes are all checked so that nobody under 18, like there's no accounts under 18 that are allowed to come into my content. And so that also alleviates some of the heaviness of risk when it comes to, right, the problems that it can cause YouTube. I understand that some of the topics I talk about can be heavy, and I am only heavy, or sorry, I am only human. And I make mistakes, and sometimes I put my foot in my mouth, and sometimes I say things that, without covering and looking for the proof for, right, and the source and things. And No, it just makes it easy, even easier, just for me too, just for the legalities, just to make it so nobody is getting in trouble. Nobody is right. Nobody is right. Right. And the thing is, I have never had a strike. I have over a thousand videos now, and I have not had one strike. I had my one of my monetized videos demonetized, and it was taken by the creator of a tune that was in the background, the copyright. So I went to a car show, and they had big music speakers going on, and I think it was like Credence CCR, which was a 60s 70s band, and one of their songs was playing, so I guess they got the money. They didn't get much because that video didn't get a lot of views, and I think in the end, just again for the legalities of things and just to keep things going smooth, I just deleted it anyway. It wasn't impactful in any way that I thought it contributed. It would be a great loss not to be on my channel, so I just got rid of it. And I would think that being on YouTube for 10 years, if nothing else, I gave um, that consideration to the platform that I present on, right? Just to be, I don't know, a good Google girl. I like being a Google girl. That right? It's a community that I take a great amount of pride in being a part of. I'm almost at level 7 as a Google guide, and I could have been there a long time ago, but I don't want to be doing reviews of like grocery stores, and I don't do restaurants, right? I don't spend money that way except unless I'm going to a coffee shop. So those kind of reviews I don't do, but I do all my provincial parks, I do all my rest stops, I do all my Tim Hortons. I do all the Tim Hortons because lots of times when you're out on the road, because it's part of my community, right? We're explorers, we're road trippers, and so for our community, we want to make sure that when we're on the road, that if we get in trouble, like we could just pick up our phone and go, "Hey Google, can you take me to the closest gas station?" And it just takes you right away. And that's happened to me before. I was on E on my car, and I was on my gas, and I was way out in the countryside. Nowhere's near a town. In fact, honestly, right, in Manitoba, you could just go in a direction and eventually you'll hit a main drag. So I wasn't too worried about it. So I wasn't really sure of where I even was. And then finally I looked down and I saw that the gas light was on and that I was below the E mark. And I went, oh my goodness. And I went into panic mode because I didn't even know where it was, and the sun was going down. It was getting dark, and I went, "Oh my goodness!" And then I was lucky because I was able. Oh, Google heard me say that, looking for assistance. Yeah, so I was able to use my Google Assistant, and they right within 10 minutes I was at a gas station. I was able to fill up. If I hadn't found that gas station. I'm not quite sure if I even had enough power on my phone because you guys know I use my phone quite often for my filming too. So I wasn't quite sure whether or not I had power even on my phone. It would have been a bad situation. I get myself in these close calls on occasion, right? On occasion, but I also think quite often, I'm well taken care of, right? Once I'm out in the countryside, right, I have that relationship to my environment that I feel super safe when I go camping, right? When I'm out in the woods and stuff, I don't worry in any way. In fact, I have to talk to myself to be safe. I go, Cindy, do you got your bear spray? right? And I always make sure I take my bear spray. And I've had that bear spray. I might have to go in and get a new can, but you have to register your bear sprays like a weapon, right? And 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 you have to register and everything when you buy them, like you're registering your gun. And but I've never had to use my bear spray. Now I don't know whether there's an expiry in that, but I think eventually, right, we should exchange them in and turn them in and replace them with new ones, because when I go for walks, that thing is swinging and hitting me on the side. I have no idea. When I take it with me sometimes and I'm out there and I think I can knock a bush or I fall down the rocks or something, that is just going to go off on me. But I feel better. I feel better wearing the bear spray. It's just the precaution to take to myself. But lots of times I say, Cindy, can you wear a scarf or can you wear a toque or something? Because if you're being stalked by a cat, the cat will try to get you from behind your head, right? And so it just makes it a little bit cush there so that you have a better opportunity to grab the bear spray, because I would use that on the cat too. Anything come at me, right? Yeah, you walk by me and you got the side eye, I'm gonna be whipping out that bear spray. Was actually thinking today that next year that I might give that Silver Falls another shot. Going down to the waterfalls, I think would be very easy, and I think it would be a beautiful walk. It's coming back up, so if I picked the right day where it was dry and I started in the morning rather than in the afternoon, that it would be something that I would manage, because I would just go very slowly. I would take my time and I would take lots of rests and I would go wandering in the forest and making a big adventures. I don't think getting down to the falls would have been hard, but I think getting back up to them, that's where the difficult. And it is 10 kilometer a 10-kilometer hike too. So yeah, I chickened out on that one. I knew though, right, that I couldn't do it. Not that day. Not with how I was feeling. Uh, yeah, I was pretty zapped. My whole trip, I was zapped. It wasn't that I wasn't enjoying my trip. I just wasn't expecting to be so zapped in that. But that was a good thing. I really think it was a good thing. I really felt rejuvenated, and I loved. I actually did love editing my videos for my trip, and I spaced even that out. I gave myself little days to get to certain points in the editing, and in the frustrations, I took it slow and finding resolutions, and I got the job done when I said I was going to get it done. So I was kind of proud about that. Proud about that too. I'm a big believer in baby steps, you guys. Just keep moving forward, but just doing it at a pace that you can tolerate, that's not going to throw you into an anxiety attack or put so much financial stress on you or make you even physically ill, right? I believe I do things in baby steps, and it's right why I'm still on YouTube 10 years later, right? Is because I did it in baby steps. If I hadn't, right, possibly I might have given up a long time ago, right? A long time ago. And a lot of what I do definitely requires me to do it in baby steps, because I'm digging into topics that are just so heavy. Oh my goodness. Like especially those narcissism, right? The topics on narcissism. And I feel, I genuinely feel bad for the narcissist. I've been around narcissists my whole life, right? They come across my path, they stick in my life. And it's only up until recently that, I had a better idea of how to deal with narcissists or even what a narcissist was. But you know, looking at the narcissist, I could have easily myself grown up to be, right. I think it was the idea that I had one person that I knew loved me more than anything, right. And so that helped me not to be turning into a narcissist. But also the fact that I was female, because usually it's the males, right. But even though they say that women are equally narcissistic. That's as of recently, right? The wives bossing the men around the households and stuff like that, right? So this is something new that's been going on. I think we're going to slowly move back into that family unit. We're starting to realize that there's some problems. Sometimes we do marry the wrong partners, but it's important for us to pick the right partners, right? My parents were not the right partners. They made that partnership work out of necessity. They didn't have much of a choice. They didn't leave themselves much of a choice, and like it was a very codependent kind of crazy dynamic, right? Family unit that we had. We managed to get through it all, but oh my goodness, narcissism does run in my family, but it a lot of it is not with intent. They right, they didn't mean to be that. It's just that you say stuff right without thinking, and honesty stuff sometimes, right? Lots of people, they don't express the negative thoughts that they think of others, right? Out of politeness. And, I would much prefer to be around a narcissist who tells me his real feelings, so I know exactly where he stands, so that I know exactly what kind of person that I'm dealing with. But lots of people, they don't say anything. They just keep it inside and the smile, and right. I feel bad sometimes for the narcissist because, right, they go through the same experience as an empath, but they come out the other end the opposite way of an empath, right? And they really struggle for that. And now it's kind of like a piranha thing going on with so much media and so much talking and so much analyzing and about the narcissist. I feel intent, so dealing with narcissists for me is not right. I recognize them. I'll move away on the norm, right? Sometimes with a lesson, sometimes without a lesson, right? But yeah, right. Right. As sensitive as we can have those kind of people around us, because it drags us down. It emotionally envelops us because we're down at the level that they're at, and it makes them feel better, but it makes us feel worse that way. But that's not their fault. I mean, I say to my sister all the time, those lifelines that come down all the time, you need something, and then somebody offers, you're not going to say no. If it's the lifeline, if it's your hydro bill, if it's the groceries in your cupboard, if somebody's willing to help, and that's the thing that you need in the moment. It's not like you're signing a contract and saying, I'll be your slave for the rest of my life because you gave me a bag of rice to help get me through the week, right? These kindnesses, I never ever give kindnesses out in the expectation that I'm going to get anything out of it. If something comes out of it, absolutely amazing. But, kindnesses shouldn't have any expectations. That's what makes them so special. If you kind of like watch TikTok or Instagram videos or the shorts here on YouTube, there's a lot of short kindnesses that you can see, and it's very inspiring, right? But it's well, it's the example that we are to each other, right? Right. It's about being that example that you want to see the world. Then you have to start with yourself, and that's what we kind of learn from. Okay, let's go back in the comments here and see where we left off. Oh my goodness, you guys have been yapping. Um, Sometimes I watch Orca Tyrann. I don't know what that is, Andrew. What the hell is that? I never even heard of that. I gotta write that down. I don't even know how to spell that. I don't think you've even heard that word before. ARU. Okay. Oh my goodness. I never even heard of that. Oh, Katrina. Katrina? Uh, oh, the hoarded houses. Yeah, I don't know if I could do that job. I am not meticulous in that way. I get the job done. But if it takes me away from what I'm doing, what I feel is important, everything, I'm right. Let's just get these dishes done. Like, how fast can I get them done? And when you're working in the hoarder house, like you've got to remember you're dealing with contamination and animal droppings and bugs, and so you have to be very meticulous in your cleaning, right? I don't know if I could, right? Needing a job, you do anything in needing a job, and at the same time you could consider that job being in service because you're helping somebody who has obviously some emotional issues to help alleviate a problem in their life, right? Sometimes people just need a head start. I was talking to a gentleman at the store last night, and we were talking about COVID. We were talking about how we were all shut down and how crazy town it was, and how that just was so messed up. And then I looked at it and I says, well, I says COVID saved my life. And his eyes balled out. He looked kind of confused, and he said, what? And I says, yeah, it's true. I says, COVID saved my life. I says, when COVID happened, the city got shut down for like a couple of months, like the bars were closed and everything, right? And I used to play those video lotteries at the bar. And I says, when the bar shut down like that, I got a little bit of a break from those machines. And what resulted was the alleviation of a lot of the stress of that addiction of gambling. And it came off me, and I got a taste of that. And I thought, oh my goodness, I'm not going to gamble anymore. I think I gambled one more time after that during COVID, and I never gambled again. That was the end of it. It's been over 5 years now that I have gambled, and I was actually even. It's funny that we're talking about this because yesterday I was coming home and it was nighttime. I was coming back from a walk, and I could see the building and our community. We have a seniors community center on the main floor, and it's a big room, and I could see it was all lighted up, and they were starting to like decorate it and stuff, right? Big community center kind of thing, and they were decorating it and stuff. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, maybe I'll go play bingo. They have bingo on Thursday nights. Maybe I'll go down. I've never done it before, right? To hang out. I don't normally hang out with the people in this building. I'm always polite, always stand around and have short conversations, but I'm not close to anybody. I don't let people in my apartment. Sometimes my sister will come over or something, but people who live in this building, I don't invite them into my apartment, right? I'm very private that way. But I thought, oh, maybe I'll go and do bingo this week because they do bingo on Thursday. And now, oh, I can't. I don't gamble, right? But then I thought, oh, but maybe I can go play bingo and then just let them know when I go in that if I win anything, right? If I win the bingo, then the winnings can just go um, to the seniors association, so they could do outings and stuff like that, and Christmas dinners. But it was only a thought, and as fast as the thought came in, as fast as the thought came out, they have a few things going on here. I thought, oh my goodness, I could make my cranberry scones. Oh my goodness, I thought my scones that I make with the Bisquick are absolutely to die for. And they have a little bit of a morning meet and greet every day in that community center for an hour and a half. And I thought, oh, I could take my scones out to a big platter of scones and say hi to them and have coffee with them in the morning. And then I thought, oh, as fast as that thought came into me, as fast as that thought out the door, it went. I am not super social that way. I don't move towards being social that way. I get involved in it lots of times, right? But it's not something that I initiate. Okay, let me have another sip of my no. Let me have a sip of my juice. That's what I'll do. Oh, that feels good. Get the fluids into me. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's see. Come into the contents. Where did we leave off? Um, I've been involved in a booktube project to read only books, that I already have during the month of November. No new books come in. So you're just going to read books that you've read before? I was thinking something like that this week, but only about particular book, right? And it was a book called The Camerons. I would like to read that one again. It will be the fourth time I've read it since I was a young adult, but it's a family saga, and it helped me a lot to understand dynamic families. But the story was so well written and the characters were absolutely amazing. So it is a book that I would like to read again. If I should ever come across it in a bookstore and a thrift shop, I'll definitely buy it again. But did you get your action figures there, William, that you wanted? Um Say, not only had the fathers been through World War II, but some of them went through terrible times in the Depression before that. 100%, right? That was because that was going on at the same time as the First World War, right? Because the Depression started around 1916. They were starting to, well, whenever the Panama, when Panama was built, right? Because it became less expensive to distribute merchandise to North America, and it kind of killed business and stuff. And it was really, really, I know, especially here in Manitoba, Canada, because everything, everything that was being sent to North America and even going into the States and stuff, it had to go through Winnipeg first. Well, it got dumped off in Nova Scotia, and then it would travel from Nova Scotia to Winnipeg, and then it would be distributed from Winnipeg to all parts of North America. We had over 24 rail lines in this city at one point. We were actually the third largest city in Canada at one time. I think we're number 6 or 7 at this point. Yeah. But yeah, the depression, that was a tough one because there was so much prosperity because people were just finishing paying off their farms and stuff because you had 10 years to get your farm going, your settlement going, your homestead going, and then it would be yours, right? And so that era had ended, and everybody had this land that they were now cultivating, and it was pretty much pure profit, and everybody was doing so well. Remember the Sears houses and the Eaton's houses, um, because these were farming communities. These houses would be kits to build a big house. Actually, if you go to my main page, I have a couple of those Eaton's houses that I urban explored. But those kits would be put on a train, and they would be shipped to whatever small town, and then you would take your horse carts and you go back and forth, and you would have your lumber, your nails, your roofing, your finials, everything for your house would be sent to you, all the materials. And those houses were not very expensive. Some of those houses were going for like $4,000, $6,000, right? In those days it wasn't too expensive, but people were starting to prosper really, really well, and they were spending money, right? Cars were happening, and yeah, there was a lot of prosperity going on here in Manitoba when that depression hit. It was awful. And you're right, those wars, right? It just made things really, really tough. They actually start wars to try to help to uh, build up the economy. I was watching a program on that, and it's pretty incredible how things are manipulation. I snip that stuff up. There's a big difference between influence and manipulation. And when I'm out there and I'm feeling things out, and I can smell that stuff a mile away. And yet, there was a time I was so naive and so blind to everything that I was just like pushed around, right? Like bumper cars going on. And yeah, I wish I had been a little bit more aware. But again, it is what it is. You don't cry over spilt milk in that way. But yeah, that was a terrible time in the 20s, wasn't it, with the depression? Even here in Winnipeg, like all the men came out from the farms from up north and their homesteads and stuff, and they would have to come into the city to find work because even though they had their farms, they didn't have any money for equipment and right for heat and whatever else that they needed. And so the men would go into the big city, which was Winnipeg or Brandon, and look for work. Here in Winnipeg, all the big mansions, right downtown, um, uh, you couldn't send your kids to school because it was so ruffian, right? Because these men would go to work and then go to the bar and drink, and all the mansions were turned into rooming houses. That's why they built on the other side of the river, is to get away from what had happened. So it's kind of like, it was the best part of town at one time, and then it kind of turned into the slum area. And it is kind of at this moment very, very low income, not a good area to bring up families in. Yeah, but yeah, the that but those are the changes, and those are the challenges, right? Those things have been happening for thousands of years, and I'm kind of grateful. People think it's really, really bad out there right now, that it's never been worse. yes, it might be bad, but I goodness, you put us back 200 years, right? And experience not having running water or electricity or cars or airplanes, right? To be married off when you're just a little kid yourself, right? And having babies when you're little kids, and working the fields without any machinery, just doing it with horse and plow, and having outhouses. And I could just go on and on. And it's the struggle. That's the resilience, though. That's, you got to desire just to want to keep going, right? Just to keep going. I love history, you guys. I could talk, especially the community, the social part of that, the traditions and because this is a going to give us a better idea of how to maneuver and move forward to make sure that we don't go extinct, right? We're a species just like every other species on this planet, but we are smart, right? And we are pretty good at finding the little pitfalls before they happen and finding right resolution to these issues. So yeah, I love innovation. I'm pretty excited to see what the next 100 years are going to get us. But is it going to be easy? No, right? We might just go into a recession, right? Just can you imagine? I'm so grateful again to Mr. Trump or President Trump for taking the tariffs off the beef and the coffee. It was so expensive, and I love my coffee, and I haven't seen a good ground beef sale in a long time. It'll be kind of nice to maybe get a good deal on a big package of ground beef and fill up my freezer with hamburger patties and meatloafs and shepherd's pie and stuff. And then I don't have to make a mess because I can just like throw everything into the microwave in the oven because it's already ready to go. Okay, let's come in and we're going to just tie it up here, you guys. Um, Andrew says, I know what you mean, Cindy. That YouTube channel is soft. Oh, soft white underbelly. Yes, that's the television program or the documentaries that I used to watch. I used to watch all of them, but it kind of made me a little bit sad, right? Because you could see the special in the people that were struggling so much. And I have this idea, like sometimes that our souls, we want to come to the surface and they want to help and sometimes it's just too much, right? They come to the surface and it's just too much. And it's great if in the intent of it, but if you're not capable. And it just made me kind of sad to see the struggles in real people's lives that way. Yeah, it is. It's but we're getting better. We're getting better as a whole. We're getting better. Those terrible things are going on still, and they're going to be going on for a long time still. But we're coming out of it because, right, we're becoming better human beings. We're smart, right? We're course correcting. We're finding better ways to make things work, right? And we're not going to allow ourselves, right, to go extinct. Not a chance. Okay, you guys. I'm just gonna come down. Thank you, Melvin, that you came in here tonight. Um, I've seen photos and videos of dead bodies that were on the Mount Everest. Some were removed, but may have been just dumped into a ravine. Yeah, there's still lots of them out there. They're actually like the Titanic. They're considered grave sites now. So yeah, I've seen those too. I don't know how long they can last because everything with global warming, right? Eventually it will be like those glacier mummies and stuff that they've been finding on occasion. I've been keeping up. I haven't Googled discovery. You Google that word discovery, and then you just go for the last 6 months, and then you just see what discoveries, what's the innovation, what was the treasure hoard they found, right? I like the treasure hoard ones, especially the nomadic ones, like the Viking hordes and stuff. Yeah, I like watching those ones, especially with the metal detectors. Okay, you guys. Oh, I'm glad you like that one too. Yeah, Cameron's. I want to read that one again. It was a big book. I think it was a family saga, but it was so good, and it was a lot of good food for thought. I love food for thought. Okay, you guys. That's it for tonight. We'll be back. Well, we'll actually be back tomorrow um, for What's My Good Cheer at 9 o'clock. If you want to come in and hang out, Melvin comes in on occasion and hangs out with me. Kathy was with me all last week when I lost my cat. Kathy was absolutely amazing. She even offered to help me take care of my cat, to put her down or to get her help or something. And I refused the kind offer. I'm responsible for my cat, and I don't think I would have felt good about that. But we managed, right, to do it. She didn't suffer. Right, it was suffering on all the way around, but we made it as short and sweet as we possibly could, and like I said, today I'm feeling so much better, and getting some things cleaned up around the house. And it's nice not have to clean the cat litter box, right? I'd much rather have my cat, but it's nice not to have to clean the cat litter box or to smell the cat litter box. Okay, you guys, we'll see you next Sunday if we don't see you during the week. I hope everything goes really well. Dress a little bit warmer. I could feel the chill in the air. It was a nice day today. It would have been a good day for a walk. I even put my snow pants on, but then again, I couldn't go because I was expecting somebody to come by and pick something up. But when you choose to be your own boss, what can you do? You guys have a great night. We'll see you next Sunday.